Hey everybody, Jason Blaha here with Ice Cream Fitness. I'm just sitting here drinking my morning coffee in my robe, looking sexy as hell as usual. Alright, today I wanted to do a Q&A. I've seen a lot of research and data lately being put out on branched chain amino acids, particularly leucine, and I've had a couple of subscribers ask me if I would go into details about the benefits, uses, timing, and so forth for branched chain amino acids. A lot of you might not like the answer that I'm going to give, but the reality is supplementing with branched chain amino acids for the most part is pretty useless. It's not going to meaningfully impact your performance or muscle gains or net protein synthesis. This is a bit of a hustle that the supplement companies have pulled on us using a lot of the modern research. And this has been done by heavily cherry-picked studies, and generally studies that have very severe study limitations that can't possibly allow us to draw conclusions in the real world. Almost every one of these studies that show any anabolic benefits or muscle protein synthesis benefits for supplementing branched chain amino acids are generally done on rats. They're done on people who are consuming way below the recommended protein intake for what most of us in sports nutrition and nutritional science are recommending to you guys. And oftentimes they aren't even studying muscle protein synthesis. They're studying things like net nitrogen balance and things that really can't give you always a good idea of what's going on inside the muscle. So realistically, a lot of these studies aren't particularly useful. And I'm not saying that branched chain amino acids themselves are not extremely critical and absolutely critical, not only for life, but for gaining muscle mass and for muscle protein synthesis. But what I'm saying is that for most people, they're getting so much of it in their diet if they're following the protein recommendations of getting at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that the amount they're actually supplementing with is really minimal compared to what they're already consuming. And what I mean by that is that most complete protein sources, quality protein sources, whether it's steak, chicken, fish, dairy, eggs, tend to be 15 to 25% branched chain amino acids already as far as their protein content. And so for someone who's consuming closer to the recommendations to what we give of 150 to 200 grams of protein depending on body weight, or even more, it's not uncommon for them to already be consuming 30 to 50 grams of branched chain amino acids. And this idea that supplementing with another 5 grams is going to elicit a further anabolic response, well, there's just no scientific data to back it. There's no reason whatsoever to think that there's going to be a benefit to this. And until data comes out proving otherwise, then there's no reason for us to believe that there's a benefit to adding more. And this is a case where sometimes people will say, hey, I want an insurance policy just to make sure. But to me, an insurance policy is something that you actually know will offer a benefit, and there's actually a risk of not having that benefit. And in this case, there's no data to suggest that anyone consuming adequate protein is at risk of being deficient in the amount of branched chain aminos that they need for optimal muscle protein synthesis. And there's no data to suggest that there's going to be a benefit from supplementing it. So it's not an insurance policy. You're basically wiping your ass with dollar bills is what you're doing. And this is really just a case of people focusing on the things that don't matter, putting energy and effort and thought and spending money on things that aren't really that important, while oftentimes ignoring that which is important. For example, a lot of people will take the time to go look at these studies and think that they tell them something meaningful. They'll incorporate it hoping to get just 2% more muscle protein synthesis, but the same person has never taken the same scientific approach to their training. That person has never said, hey, is my training frequency and volume optimal for me to get as much muscle protein synthesis per week or per day as humanly possible in all of the muscles that I'm trying to make the most gains in, which could actually attribute to another 20, 30, or even 40% more muscle growth and muscle protein synthesis by optimizing that. And they never do that. Most of the people looking at these things and supplementing with branched chain aminos never look at those important factors, but they will go take a risk and spend money on something completely unproven in the hopes of getting 2% more gains while ignoring something and not really looking at the details of something that could be giving them another 20 to 40% more gains. So, in short, branched chain amino acids are for the most part useless as a supplement. If you're consuming enough protein already, you're going to be getting well above what you need on all of the branched chain amino acids for optimal muscle growth, and there's no need to really waste your time or money supplementing something like that into your diet if your protein intake is already sufficient. And hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot. And that's all I have to say on that. I'll talk to you next time.